one of the things you want to learn to do is reduce your waste. Nothing should be considered wasteful. Everything should be recycled. So follow me, and I'll show you how we make our soil. So first thing is, if you look over here, we have our seasonal transition. These are plants, vegetables that we pulled up from our farm or the garden, and we sit them out here to dry. Once they're dry, we put them onto this pallet and we chop them up. We then add a little bit of our chicken manure and food scraps. Food scraps are super important because we all have food that we throw away, vegetables that have aged. You can actually use that to create soil. So my job is to cut this stuff up, make it really fine. And then if you follow me over this way, this is processed vegetation, which is tree leaves, branches, wood ash, paper ash. If you look closely, these are mesquite pods. Oh, my map's going. These are mesquite pods, and they're breaking down. They just break down a lot slower than the actual leaves. But if you look, this stuff is so fine and so rich right now, it's almost compost or soil itself. You can even see the mesquite pods are even starting to germinate inside of this pile itself. So I combine all three of those. Come over here. And we're going to take some paper ash. We just burned this today. And we're going to add it to our active compost bin. Now, this stuff here is everything broken down. As I mix, I'm going to spread the ash into the soil. This is what everything looks like when it's broken down. It turns into a nice, rich soil that's great for plants. And you want your soil to be cakey.
All right. Seems like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty again. Does anybody, are y'all having any questions? If y'all have questions, drop them in the chat because I have a couple already.
Oh, I can't find the chat. Let me see. But I did want to know what the paper.
That was the same thing I asked. What did
Okay.
the ash do to the compost?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Are you on your phone or your computer?
I'm on my phone.
Okay,
he can't see the questions, you guys, but if you put him in there, we'll be sure to ask him when he comes back once he finishes the demonstration. But that is a really good question. Like, yeah, I never heard of putting paper in compost before. I thought it was just always like old potato peels or something.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, what does the ash do for it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Look,
we're just waiting on him to come back.
I know, and then here we go with the intermission.
I know. We appreciate you guys being so patient with us. Let's see. Have any of you guys, let's just talk about gardening in general. Have any of you guys, do you have plants at home? Do you have you ever tried to grow anything before?
Just herbs, basil, thyme, rosemary, stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about doing that because I love basil so much. And I'm like, man, this is expensive to keep buying at the store.
It smells so good at morning time because, you know, you have the fresh herbs just coming out of wherever you have it planted. So it just smells amazing.
How did you get started doing that? You just buy a plant at the store one day and just said, let me try this?
I did both. And so I went to a natural exhibit here in Vegas, and they had
Mhm.
these coconut shells. So instead of using manure or regular dirt, they had these coconut shells. So it's kind of like a hydroponic system,
Oh, cool.
where you're using the coconut shells and water opposed to the dirt and water. So I don't know, it's the same concept. It still looks like dirt, but it
That's
works.
interesting. I think I'm gonna try that.
Well, I've successfully, and I'll try to show you guys before we're done, but I started just off the humbug. I put a potato in a thing, and so I have a potato plant on my back patio. But the
Hmm.
bought basil, like Alcinia says, because we eat pesto on everything, and my husband makes it by hand. Um, so we have, and then I've bought mint before, like the little plants. I never can seem to keep them long though. I don't really know where to keep them or how to keep them. Like after a week, it's over.
You might be watering too much. Because I was doing the same thing. I killed my mint plants. I was watering them too much.
And we actually did have a plot last year,
Rock,
roots too. We had two of them, and we grew
awesome, awesome. I was gonna say
kale,
it's really
sunflowers.
great gardening.
Mm-hmm. We have fun out there. It wasn't enough of us to maintain it and to rotate it, but we had um, okra, kale,
Oh,
basil, a couple of different kinds of peppers, and sunflowers. So
Hey,
awesome.
hi, Miss Jolette. We had asked before, have any of you been to the garden before? So you've been there. What did you think of it? Oh, you're on mute.
I think the garden is pretty cool. It's very interesting and it's very um, it it tells you so much about gardening. You know, you seeing it there growing, it it gives you, you know, as you go on the tour, they'll show you how things are grown, kind of like the process that they use and things like that. And so yeah, I really like the fact of just seeing the food grow. I don't know, seeing the food grow. I grew up, my mom always had a garden, and I've always
Mm,
wanted one, but never really had the whatever to do it. So seeing it in the garden like brought some life into me, into my soul. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Greenery, just any kind, is amazing to me.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I've been up there, I think, one time, and I was like, this is neat. I'm gonna come back, and I have not been back yet. Uh, Zarina, you said you've bought compost before. Did you buy it at the garden, or where did you get it?
Oh no, I just deposited into their compost. Like I had done a bunch of juicing and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I had all this pulp and you know,
Oh, you say
like
you brought. Yeah, I thought you said bought, and I was like, oh wow, you could. My
no
bad, I could
ma'am.
read.
I
So
brought
what are
it.
you growing over there?
Not for me. I just brought it to them and dropped it off. But I didn't see what happens to it after
Oh.
get up there. I'm like, they'll figure it out. So and then it was cool to see how, you know, it goes through the different stations. I saw them when I went up there, but I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that works. I'll come for a tour another time.
Yeah.
But now I got my own personal tour on Zoom. This is dope.
Yes, it is. And it looks like we got David back with us. David, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Thank you for your donation. So whoever donated the juice pulp and whatnot, thank you for
Uh-huh.
that.
Oh, yes, Zarina, he's thanking you for your donation to the compost.
More than welcome.
So I have to apologize. It's hot out here and my phone overheated.
Oh,
So, but just before we started, I had turned the AC on in the classroom. So it's super cool in here. We're able to move in here. I hope the lighting is fine. But I want to show you how you want to start doing seeds in your planters. So are we ready to go?
Yeah, let's go for it. Jump in.
All right, so first thing you want to do, this is super important, right? If you're starting a seed in a planter, you want to label the planter and put the date on it. So I use regular masking tape and a Sharpie for all of my labeling. Really low tech, got to be something extra special. But I can tell that, you know, this is echinacea and I'm planting it on April 10th. So when you're doing your seedlings, right? First thing you want to do is make sure you do not overfill your container. You want to make sure that you get a little over halfway so that you have a nice solid bed. This gives your roots room to grow. And if you have a Sharpie with you or a pen, you can take the bottom of it and just push a little bit to make a small hole. It doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be deep. A lot of times you make the mistake of pushing all the way down and the seed doesn't have any room to germinate, and the photosynthesis that's going to take place that's going to make it grow won't be able to reach the seed that far down. So only thing we need to do is push a little hole like that. And I like to do 2 seeds per bucket. That way you have a better chance of one of them germinating. If both of them germinate, that's even better. But so I get 2 small seeds and I just drop them in the hole and cover that up. Now, add a little bit of water, if I can get it actually in the bucket. Not a lot. So this is super important. Watering is very soothing and relaxing to human beings. But we then make the mistake of overwatering our plants. Your soil doesn't have to be wet. It has to be moist. You add a little water, not a lot, and move on. So now, because we're talking about growing things at home, I put together a lot of herbs. So this is echinacea, which everyone knows is super good. It's a super great herb. It starts off with the flower. It's 100% edible. Now we're going to do some dill. And I need to mark the date. And we're going to do the same thing. Remember, the smaller the seed, the lesser the indenture you have to put in. You have to drop it in. It's really hard to do this with gloves on, but I always wear like at least one glove. Oh. There we go. So I'm going to show you how small the dill seeds are. They're super small, super thin. So with this, only thing I need to do is drop them into the planter and then just mix the dirt on top of it and add a little bit of water. Now, these are all going to go into my greenhouse, which stays at a temperature above 100 degrees, which is significantly warm. But that's going to help germinate the plants. And once they start to germinate, I'll say like after 2 weeks of them germinating, I'll then move them outside. So this is time, and we all need a lot more time, don't we?
I was waiting on that joke.
Yeah, we have a sign when you're leaving the garden that says, "See you next time."
I've seen it before too. David, you got a little fan club over here.
I love it.
They over here
See this
reminiscing
fan
about
club
your
in person.
garden.
All right, so
You.
I want to show you these thyme seeds. Super small. So with that, we're just going to drop them in and then cover them up.
Quick question, David. How do you know when your seeds have started to germinate? If it's, it's all covered up. You just gotta wait.
Well, germination takes place, they're germinating when they break through the soil.
Okay.
And you see the budding leaves that are popping up. So sometimes we like to plant things deep into the soil. That stops them from germinating because they need to be not only just radiation, but they also need food from the sun, energy from the sun to help germinate. So I actually put my date on the drop. I'm really big on labeling and dating. That way you can track how long it takes for certain things to germinate, or if they're taking too long to germinate. And there is such thing as bad seeds. We can have some expired seeds. We can have some seeds that aren't any good. I bought some stevia seeds from Israel, and they never germinated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was extremely disappointed. So now we're doing rosemary, and let me put my date.
Does every thing you plant have an expected time to have germinated by?
There are, generally speaking, your seeds should germinate within a week, 2 weeks at the longest. However, I have seen things that have taken months to germinate. Sometimes they're just waiting for the optimum conditions. A lot of people ask me, well, how long does this take? How long does that take? I was like, what, that's between you and your Lord. Because we're all on their schedule. And we can't force them to do something they don't want to do. It would be nice if we could control them like that, but no. This is literally between the plants, the soil, and your God. That's why it's important for, if you're gardening, even if you're gardening at home, to have multiple projects you're working on, because it can be very daunting if you're just waiting on one thing. So these are rosemary seeds. These are a little bigger than the last couple of seeds I've used. So I'm going to use my pen to make an indenture. You can see that. I know it's kind of dark and it's shaded. But we're going to drop the seeds right there into that hole and cover them up and add a little bit of water. Now we have oregano. Good stuff, oregano. Is really great to cook with. and it's filled with vitamin A. And I noticed that a lot of things that are filled with vitamin A is also backed up with vitamin K. But that's not a necessary rule, just something I learned from the things we're growing in the garden.
Yeah, and I guess all those vitamins are good for us. All the
All those-
vitamins.
There is nothing like eating fresh leafy greens and getting your daily vitamin intake. We had a weed growing here, or we thought it was a weed, but it wasn't. It was a succulent. It was called purslane. That was filled with vitamin A, B, C, zinc, niacin, omega-3, vitamin K, and it was really great as a vegan omega-3 supplement. But it was growing like weeds. We didn't plant it. It just started growing, and it grows wild in the back. I don't have any right now. I wish I did. So in case you actually get to see it, you could probably pull it up and take it home. A lot of times when you're cooking or growing your own food, your flavors are going to be extremely different from that which you find in the grocery store. I equate our flavors to tasting like colors. They're that vibrant. All right, so let me show you what the oregano seeds look like. And this is super small. You see that? I don't know if you can, but like literally those little dots in my hand, those are the oregano seeds. So I'm just going to drop this into the soil, and I'm going to sprinkle a little topsoil on it and add some water.
So was there any special reason why you sprinkled on that one versus dropping it in the hole?
Because the seeds were so small and tiny, you don't want them to go too far down. The thinner the seed is, the closer you want it to the top. So one of the techniques that we do is when our seeds are that small, we'll literally just put them on the soil and then just sprinkle a little soil on top. Sage. This is some great stuff. Sage is very medicinal. It's great for burning, to relax. A lot of people burn sage to ward off evil spirits. So this is a true story. I was dating this girl, and I used to live by myself. I used to burn sage. And so one night I invited her over to my house, and she said, "No, I don't want to come over. You keep burning that sage." And the first thing I thought was, "Ha, it's working." So sage is really good for
So
putting on.
are you saying you warded her off?
I warded her off.
I love it.
I was like, don't knock the sage, man. It's doing its thing. Yeah, so I'm very cautious around people who can't stand the smell of sage burning. That just tells me that their energy is just a little bit different than mine. So these seeds, I will make a little indenture and drop them in the hole, cover that up, add water. Now, let me see. Lavender. We grow a lot of mint out here. And something that complements mint is lavender. So if you want to do like a home garden, growing lavender is one of the best things you can do, because that will literally fill your air with such a beautiful and cleansing scent and aroma.
Hey, David, so if we wanted to start a small home garden, approximately how much would that cost us?
Honestly,
Basically.
depending on the size, but you can literally start a home garden for under $100. I'm talking about 75 to 80. If you buy soil seeds, planters, watering pots, weeding tools, and you're doing at least 3 cans or planters of everything you're buying. If you $85 will include bricks to build like an above ground planter. But if you budget for, let's say, $100, you're going to come out with literally enough equipment to start your own pharmacy.
What about a little herb garden? Like you're doing right there. That's what I'm kind of interested in.
Honestly, you can literally start this $30
Really?
for the pack of herbs, the buckets, the soil. It doesn't cost a lot to do this.
Okay,
What
so
it,
you're gonna be
what it
swapping.
costs is time.
That's what I was gonna ask next. How much time and attention do you have to give to your garden each day?
It takes consistency. And so on a daily basis, you're not going to need to tend to it, but you're going to have to be consistent. So if you set up a schedule to water every other day, which is fairly good, you're going to have to be consistent on that schedule, because your plants are going to learn to depend on that.
Got it. We had another question in the chat about buying seeds with EBT. Do you know anything about that, if that's possible?
Well, that
Food
depends
stamps?
that'll depend on the shop that you buy your seeds from.
Got it.
I'll say this, Walmart has seeds and they accept EBT. A lot of grocery stores have seeds as well, and they accept EBT.
I was gonna suggest Sprouts because I always see them like at the counter when you're checking out. It doesn't hurt to ask. I know they take EBT as well. So, what are some of the health-related benefits to actually growing your own things instead of buying them?
Well, the health benefits related to gardening and buying or starting your own process is less stress. This is such a stress reliever. When you're gardening, your focus is on the ground, on earth. You're playing in the soil. You're caring for the seeds. It's very relaxing. It's very stimulating. It's very calming. I know a lot of people say that when they're gardening, their blood pressure goes down. And who doesn't need more of that?
We have another question on our Facebook page. They asked, when do you move plants from the small containers to the ground or larger containers? Because I think we don't always know when it's time to move it, when it's running out of space.
So I like to keep, like, let's say these guys here, right? My expectation is within 2 weeks, they would have germinated and they were popping up out of the soil. At that time, you can move them to a larger container or you can move them to the ground. However, I honestly prefer to wait a month. That's part of the reason why I use the dates. So I know when I seeded them and I can gauge, let's say like May 10th, I can come in and check on all of these guys and see their progress. And then I can say, yeah, I can move this to the ground or I can move these into larger containers. Once they have significant growth, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for them to look more than just, look like 2 leaves that are coming up. I want like at least 4 leaves or some kind of flourish going on. So I'm going to attempt stevia one more time. We'll show you how small these seeds are. That is super tiny. I want to try a few of them. And again, these are so small, I'm just going to drop them in the soil and then sprinkle a little bit on top. And add water. So that's how you start seedlings. I want you guys to come back in 2 weeks and check out the progress. What I'll do is I will send you pictures as they start to grow and develop. Some things move faster than others. Again, you can't rush this process. You have to allow it to take its time so it can grow to its fullest potential.
Quick question for you, David.
Yeah.
Since summer is quickly approaching us, we did have a plot out there at the garden and we started with some things we wanted instead of things that was about to be in season. And so just some suggestions of items that are gonna be in season for the summer.
So, corn, any type of melon, or I'll say viney fruits and vegetables, let's say zucchini, squash, cucumbers, cantaloupes, watermelons, honeydews, gourds, strawberries. All of those are in season right now. Okra. Let me tell you about the okra plant. It is 100% edible. Everything on that plant. The fruit, the flower, the leaves, and the stems are all edible. And that's something you should be growing in.
Well, we actually grew okra in our plot when we were there. And it
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Isn't it amazing?
It was. The lady next to us was growing peppers, and so we would bring peppers back to the office with the okra and mix it up like a little stir fry.
Yes. That sounds delicious.
We had another question here in the chat about bugs. Zarina asks, once I start planting on my patio, I'm nervous about attracting bugs or fruit flies, especially in the heat. Any tips?
So, marigold is a flower that you can plant or put into your garden bed to help ward off bugs. However, we have to learn to live with nature. And I know that's a lot of people get kind of ward off by that, but we have to think that if we feed nature nature will then feed us, right? I don't use any chemicals out here, except for home remedies. So for things that are above ground, you really don't want to spray anything in or around your plants. For, let's say, our farm where everything is in the ground and we have these rows, and in between the rows we have mulch, but a lot of bugs love to live inside of that mulch. I have created a cayenne pepper and vinegar pesticide that wards them off. But the mulch itself is dead. A lot of times we have grass growing in our backyards or around our patios, and spraying cayenne pepper and vinegar might kill that. So you don't want to spray it like on the ground or anything next to where it's growing. You really want to spray it around something that's not growing, that you don't want things to grow on. But outside of that, for flies, honestly, let's say a fly strip above your planters, that's a good way just to get them to go to the strip, and you can dispose of that easily. But honestly, I really believe in letting nature be nature, because then nature will nurture us.
I'm glad that you answered that question like that, because one of the questions was how important is gardening to our environment and why? And I think you kind of answered that and wrapped it right on up.
Okay, so listen to this, right? And this is really important because we're in Vegas. Is everyone here in Vegas or Nevada at least?
Yep, we are.
Yes, yeah, most of us are here in Nevada.
All right. So we have a 360-degree mountain range going around the city of Las Vegas, right? That is creating a carbon dioxide bubble. And we can eliminate that bubble by planting more plants, growing more vegetables, trees, because they eat up the carbon that we're spitting out. Now, one thing that Nevada or Las Vegas is doing is we're having a lot of people move here, and we're developing a lot of areas. We're tilling the soil and we're releasing the carbon that's back into the soil, into the atmosphere. And we're not putting in anything to eat up that carbon. As people move into Nevada, right, they are putting out more carbon dioxide, but we're not doing anything to eliminate all of that excess carbon dioxide. And the best way to do that is to do your own gardening, plant more trees. The more green and foliage we have in this valley, the better our air quality is going to be. So listen to this. Here's a couple of facts for you. In America, we waste 1.6 trillion tons of food annually. That's 1.6 trillion tons of food. Las Vegas represents 48% of all food waste in America. Now, the first thing people think of is, oh yeah, the casino. We, as residents, have to take our share of responsibility for the food waste. And we can eliminate that by composting, turning our food scraps into soil, making things, growing our own food. And from there, what we don't use, we can share with others, or we can turn that back into soil. The most beautiful thing about this process is nothing here will go to waste. It won't go into a trash bin. It won't go into a landfill. It will literally grow up, share with the community. After it has had its season, we're going to turn it back into soil so we can redo this all over again.
That's amazing, David. Just want to open the floor if anybody else had any questions they wanted to ask. Oh, Zarina asked, what's a good way to save compost to donate to the garden? They used bags, but we know there's a better way to keep that smell down.
So a lot of people are really concerned about the smell of compost. Two things you can do. First one is freeze it. A lot of people will freeze their compost. That will eliminate the odor, period. But you can also add coffee grounds into the bags. That coffee will literally dissipate the odor.
So David, can you share with us?
Serena, we can't hear you. You were talking. You good? Okay. Go ahead, Shonda.
Okay, sorry, Zarina. Can you share with us why is it so difficult to access fruits and vegetables in low-income communities?
White supremacy. So we don't have any grocery stores. Let's just take the area where the garden is in, right? It's a lot of residential. We have a weekly that is right behind us. We have a low income town housing on the other side of us. We have apartments to the west of us. And there's no grocery store here except for, I think there's Mario's up on Lake Mead and MLK. And then across from him is like a dollar store. So they have vegetables there. But I will run out of fingers if I count the fast food chains that surround this area. So the idea is that the people here won't eat fresh vegetables. They rather eat processed food. And these are people who don't have a large income. So a $20, you take $20, you go to McDonald's, that'll feed 3 people at the most, right? But that same $20, you can take to Smith's, Albertsons, Vons, and you can buy fruits and vegetables, other foods for an entire household that can last, a week or maybe a couple of days. I won't say $20 for stretch a week, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? So they rather you spend your money on the most unhealthiest stuff possible versus putting in a store that can offer you more beneficial foods, fresh fruits and vegetables and things of that nature.
So David, Zarina has a quick little story she wants to share with us.
Please.
I used to work over there off of Rancho, and for a week straight, I kept forgetting my lunch. And it used to, I'd have to go to the Burger King or go, and I don't, eat meat. So it just, I started feeling so bad at work because I kept eating fast food every day. So I told my coworker, and she was like, it's a garden over here. I was like, what? Googled it, drove, it literally was right down the street. I literally ran to Vegas Roots and I met Roz, and I pulled something out of that garden. Like, we just made our own salad, our own everything, and just everything came fresh from the ground. I didn't even care because I was so hungry, but I was burnt out on all of the food places over there, and I just couldn't do it no more. And I was
thinking about it,
garden
how
right
much money
here.
are you wasting by buying fast food?
Oh, a bunch of money.
Right. I mean, and just think about it. This area, these people need more savings accounts than access to fast foods. I mean, there's a Starbucks here, but there's not a grocery store.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? So they feed to those addictions. And this is why our communities are so ridden with diseases, illnesses, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, kids under 10 years old with diabetes, type 2 diabetes. How does that happen? A 10-year-old shouldn't know what obesity is, but they do, because look at the food that they're eating. And we can't so much put the onus on the parents, because this is where they can afford to live. And if our government, whether it's national, state, or local, really cared about the people, they would work to bring in grocery store chains, which will offer us jobs, which will give us more income, which we can spend back in our community. But they don't see it that way. They rather us stay sick, stay poor, stay uneducated. Malcolm X called it the vicious cycle. You live in a poor community, so you go to a poor school. You go to a poor school, you get a poor education, you get a poor paying job. You get a poor paying job, which you only can afford to live in a poor community. So your cycle starts all over again.
And that's
poverty is literally generational. The same thing as America talks about generational wealth, there is a such thing as generational poverty.
it's funny because what you're describing is environmental justice, and it's a direct tie towards fighting racism. The overall vitality of Black people and low income people is tied to the available environmental resources that we all have, which is our food, which is what we have access to, that's healthy, that's fresh. Grocery stores that have quality, fresh food, and not just fast food places. So thank you for highlighting that and lifting that up, because it's all tied together. The white supremacy and the oppression. We just thinking about having a garden, but what it means overall, in general, holistically for all of us is so much broader.
A lot of people like to deny that scenario. Oh, that's not true. That's not America. But it's the same story in every ghetto, in every city, in every state. It is the same story. I promise you, we can go somewhere in Houston, Texas, to a low income area, and we'll see a lot of apartment buildings with a lot of fast food restaurants with no access or very limited access to a grocery store.
We have another question from Facebook. Erica asks, how do we convince people that they can grow or at least prepare fresh foods? She thinks access is an issue, but the convenience of fast food is what keeps people coming back. Improvised folks are tired. So basically, what do you suggest we do to get people to rethink what it means to grow and prepare fresh foods for themselves? That it may not be as quick as going through a drive-through, but it may not be as tiring or long as they think it is. Kind of like Zarina talked about when they just ended up going to the garden because they were like tired of eating everything around. It was like, let's just go here and get something.
So it starts here. It starts with us, starts with you, starts with me. We have to educate people. We have to work to change the culture, because our culture is that of, especially here in Vegas, excess. I don't care if, I waste X amount of food, or I don't care if I eat a burger, that's okay. That's not going to harm me. One time, all these excuses that we give, but we have to educate people. we have to show them this is perfect. And I love doing this because we have to show people how not difficult it is, how easy it is, how available it is. And then we'll teach them the skills to make it sustainable.
And David, how often do you actually use things that you've grown in your cooking? Do you cook every day with the items that you grow, or are you not a cook, or how does that work?
My wife is the cook, and I bring home stuff all the time. Fresh eggs. I used to bring home lettuce, spinach. Right now, we don't have any of that stuff in the garden because we just did a seasonal transition. But we're growing new stuff, and when my stuff is done growing, yeah, I'll be taking all that home. Oh, not all of it. I mean, I'm gonna leave some for you guys. But yeah, I want to take what we grow here home and use it. Planted some. My wife loves bell peppers, so I've seeded some bell peppers, some green bell peppers, some orange bell peppers, some red bell peppers, and those are large kind. They're not the little tiny bell peppers. So
Definitely
yeah.
send me some of those. I love peppers. We had stuffed peppers last week.
I had some on Easter for my Easter dinner.
Ooh, yeah. So you guys have any more questions for David? Anything you want to know? Anybody? Well, David, I'm going to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you. You've been very useful, and I've learned a lot of things that I thought that I already knew about gardening, but that's normally how it works. You think you know something until you've been
Right.
schooled.
Here's the best thing. We have to get into the position of accepting that we don't know everything, and that puts us in a position to learn everything.
Exactly. That's fair.
So I want to say this. Thank you guys. Thank you for making Work Nevada. I really appreciate you guys doing this, allowing me to have this forum and this platform. I didn't know it was going to be on Facebook, but I'm so awesome. I'm psyched about that. The garden is open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 to 2. I invite you guys to come out, take my tour, learn what's growing around here, see what we're doing with our bees, our walking trails. I want to show you some things that are growing on the trees, show you guys the greenhouse experience, how that works. But thank you so much. Please come and visit us.
And really quickly before you go, David, can you just share a little bit about how the buck truck works for anybody online that may be interested in needing to figure out how they can supplement a little bit more food for their buck?
The veggie buck truck, that's Tamika's department.
Okay.
I just do the growing down here.
And is it a place where we can find that information, like where the buck truck will be and all that stuff?
We're gonna put a schedule up very soon.
Okay.
I know it's that time for us to go. I have to step out for one moment, but thank you guys.
Thank you. So ladies, I hope that you have enjoyed what we've learned today. Did anybody have any follow-up questions? We got about 2 or 3 more minutes before we end this. Did anybody learn anything useful today?
I did. I'm really excited to try to start my own herb garden. I feel like I can actually do it. So yeah, I'm excited to do it. I enjoyed the chat here and also on Facebook. I was kind of like toggling between both. But it looks like everybody has, there's a genuine interest in this. Because like Zarina pointed out in our chat, our ancestors come from agricultural work. So I feel like it's in us, and we are feeling that pull towards doing that kind of work. So I definitely felt that. And, the tie to white supremacy and the way we are oppressed through lack of fresh stuff. It's like, really, we're being fed garbage.
All right. Well, again, ladies, I appreciate everybody for joining. And I'm just going to ask you guys to go to our website, makeitworknevada.org, and just check out some of the upcoming events that we're going to have going on here. Take part. We want to see you guys out in the community. Make sure y'all get vaccinated if y'all feel like y'all should before we go back out.
I have one more thing before we sign off too. We have the economic fairness campaign, and if you guys have not signed on to pledge support for the campaign, environmental justice work and food justice is a part of it. It's a part of us having what's economically fair for all of us. So go there. The website is 3six71.org. It's 3671.org. Check out our pledge and all the work we're trying to do under this new campaign and sign up so we can stay in touch with you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Cindy.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.